Speaking of Schuck, I'm really happy to have you on this. I feel honored that you're joining Schuck on a pod.
I am giddy that I was invited.
So obviously,
I don't get invited to do Frankie Say or anything like it, because I've got my own little things that I do for Muddy River, and I do some other stuff for people, sports related across the state. So it's kind of fun to do something different.
Can we call it Schuck on a pod?
We can do it. So here's the funny thing. It drives one of my coworkers nuts that people love Schuck on a truck. It aggravates him that people bring it up all the time.
Okay, so it's a him.
It's a him,
okay,
yes.
So I
with a very big head. His name may rhyme with David Adam, but the funny part is though, I'll go places and so I'll go out to cover a golf tournament, and the good people at Westview will let me take a cart out so I can take photos, and inevitably somebody will come up, hey, it's Schuck on a cart day, or I get Schuck on a truck, Schuck on a cart, Schuck on it comes up pretty much everywhere I go. Schuck on a truck does. We even have the idea, somebody brought up the idea of bringing a tailgate into one of the local gyms. Just a tailgate, not the truck, but having a tailgate, and you could drop it, fold it down like normal, and I could cover the game sitting courtside on a tailgate, and they could raffle off or auction off and be the fan of the game sit next to me.
Fantastic.
Isn't that a cool idea?
I love the idea. As a matter of fact, in your part of the studio where you do a lot of your stuff, what's on the other side of that wall? Because maybe we could fashion just a partial tailgate, shove it in the wall, anchor it from the other side.
Well, think about it. All you need to do is anchor a tailgate to the wall and then fold it down when you use it.
100%.
And that's, again, you need the tailgate. That's the experience. The city, and again, Schuck on a truck's its own beast because you sit outside, and if you watch our girls player of the year, Schuck on a Truck with Sage Stratton from Quincy, Notre Dame, you'll hear a noise and you'll see me kind of look to my left. Well, we were sitting out at Notre Dame outside by Advanced Physical Therapy Field near the bleachers. And somehow, some way, a squirrel ended up on the bleachers, and you could hear it run. And it caught my attention. But that's kind of the beauty of doing. We're not technically live when we do those because we are recording it, but I don't edit them. I don't edit things out. We were doing one and at a Quincy Park District facility, and one of the Park District employees thought something may be wrong because we were parked there, and he walked into the shot. And then he went, oh, sorry, and walked away. We left it in because that's just, I want it to be organic. I want it to just be a conversation because that's what you do in life. You have conversations with people. So why not do that for this?
So for your sake, I'm going to do this. Are you ready?
Go.
Everybody, today, the latest episode of Frankie Say is Matt Schuckman. You see why I don't do introductions all the time. For you don't need an introduction. I consider you to be... Now, I'm going to be careful. I hope you take this as a very big compliment. There are 4 or 5 people in the general area.
Okay.
And we can talk about how far of that area is stretching. But I don't know of the sports gurus in Des Moines or Jacksonville, Hannibal, Palmyra, or Kirksville. I don't know of the sports gurus in those extended areas outside of the radius of what I think I know.
Okay.
I put you, there are, and in no particular order, although you're placed very high in my mind as a sports guru, somebody that, I know if you're talking sports, I know it's correct, okay?
Try.
And so there's guys like, without naming names, I'm gonna name one name, Dominic O'Donnell, who's my age and just knows a lot about sports. He's obviously works for a QU.
Right.
For the purposes of today, you know way more than Dominic about sports. Sorry, Dom. But
he's got better hair than I do, though.
He's got great hair. You two are very likable, very knowledgeable. But I got to talk to you about something that's kind of prescient, that's a very big deal in my family.
Okay.
It's a big deal in my life.
All right.
It's March Madness.
Of course.
And I'm assuming March Madness just means that people are excited about spring? Is that
No.
what this? No.
I think people are excited about spring. I know I am, because spring means baseball's here, and baseball's my favorite sport. So there's always that.
Oh boy, You're going to go out on a limb and say that baseball is your favorite sport?
Always has been, ever since I was little.
Okay, goodness. But you don't mind covering other sports?
No, I didn't say it was my favorite sport to cover.
What is your favorite sport to cover?
That's debatable.
Okay.
Depends on the season.
Is there like a top 10 in no particular order?
No, I don't know. Again, I don't worry as much about the sport because there's sports I go out and write about that maybe I'm not a big fan of. Like, I'm not going to go home and watch that sport on TV. But I like the people that I'm writing about. To me, that's what it all is. Everything I do, everything I try to do when it comes to covering sports is about the people. It's not about the ball. It's not about the puck. It's not about the club. It's about the people. It needs to be about the people. And I hope I convey that in what I write and what I do video-wise with Schuck on the Truck and that kind of stuff. I want it to be about the person or the players and stuff. Because if you sit there and write a story about a basketball game or a football game or soccer, whatever, and you just give ad nauseum of, well, this happened, then this team scored, then this team scored. Well, you know what? So what? People that watch the game know all that. People that, listen to the game on the radio when that actually took place knew all that stuff. Okay, what can I give them that they're not going to get? Well, that's why you go to the locker room and talk to the players. That's why you have conversations before the game with players and coaches. I tend to get to a game hour and a half before tip, before kickoff, before whatever. Tend to get there that early. I'm usually there before any fans are, because that's when you can go stick your head in the dugout and talk to a coach.
How often do you walk into an empty basketball gym?
Put it this way, most nights when I'm covering, and I'm going to use the Blue Devils for example because I cover Quincy High School more than I do any other team, I'm usually one of the first 5 or 6 people in the gym that aren't players or coaches. And I'm usually one of the final 3 or 4 that leave.
Okay.
There's a lot of nights I'm outside of the janitors or custodians, I'm the last one out.
Well, let's talk about Quincy High basketball for a second before we get into your bracket.
Okay.
Because I've got questions about brackets, March Madness. We're talking about college basketball, of course. But let's talk about senior high, QHS basketball. So without naming names, and if they're watching, they're probably going to watch this, so I'll be careful. But we've got some really good mutual friends that we do a Calcutta auction for the brackets,
Okay.
and we've got lots of good guys in there, and most of them are hardcore Blue Devils.
Okay.
Okay. And of course, like Dominic O'Donnell and I are the 2 Raiders in there,
Yes.
But I was so crestfallen about the Blue Devils. So I looked at this team as a state championship team. Okay. And
A lot of people did.
And I still do. I still watching, I've not watched whole games this particular season. Sometimes Saeed Ali has taken me to basketball games, home basketball games, where the intro is so, if you're not used to that climate of how powerful the intro to a QHS basketball
Right.
game, if you're not used to that, and you're walking in kind of cold, not knowing what you're going to get, that is the most thrilling goosebump situation in all of sports.
I can tell you this. I started going to games at Blue Devil Gym when I was 5 years old. My grandparents bought 3 season tickets. If the storyline is correct from what I've been told over the years, in 1961. And those tickets were the same 3 tickets that have been in our family ever since. And so my parents started taking me when I was 5 years old. And I sat with them in those seats. Then as time wears on, you move up to the junior high, or to the kids section, to the junior high section, to the student section. Well, then you come home from college and you got to find a seat because you're not technically in the student section, Well, and then since 1999 is when I moved back to Quincy to work full time, and I was the Quincy High School beat writer from the get-go.
Is there a wait list to get good seats?
I don't think there is a wait list anymore. I know there's people that still want tickets. There was a time you had to be on a wait list, and you waited for someone to die to get their season tickets.
Jeez, that's intense.
And there was a time you weren't allowed to. So say you got too old to go to games, or you got ill, or or something, and you couldn't use your season tickets anymore, you could not pass them on to a family member or someone else. If you didn't want to buy the tickets or couldn't use the tickets, they went back into the pool. Then came a time where you could sign them over. So then the tickets just changed names. So at that point in time, my grandparents' seats, so up until, I can't remember the year, those season tickets were in my grandfather's name. My mom and dad bought them every year and used them, but they were in my grandfather's name.
Wow.
And then finally they were able to sign them over to my parents, who then eventually signed them over to me.
That could have been a scary moment if they could have lost those during the sign over.
Yeah.
You never know what can happen.
Well, and so then they redid the lower bowl of Blue Devil Gym to make it handicap accessible and put in new bleachers. And so what they did then is they did a drawing, and they walked season ticket holders in one by one. So they all met in the cafeteria. I believe it was in the cafeteria. And they took you in, and you got to pick your seats. So say you had 2 season tickets, and your name was first on the list. You walked in and said, I want those 2 seats. And it may have been the 2 seats you had. It may have been 2 different seats than what you originally had. So like when that happened, my dad went in and he picked those same 3 seats under the basket where they'd always been.
So I was living in Chicago during 9/11. And during 9/11, I was working across the street from the Sears Tower. And we were in a building that was 58 floors, something like that. And I remember having to run down the stairs because there was this talk of like, just, we're right by the Sears Tower. Maybe there's a plane coming. We had to get out of there.
Right.
I ran my ass off all the way down LaSalle Street, and I was cutting in and out of traffic and stuff. And there's a real small little hole in the wall around the corner of LaSalle. Sat down. There's only like 2 or 3 people in there. And I'm far away from anything because we're watching stuff happen on TV
Right.
and stuff. So this is like, I'm sitting down at this hole in the wall bar, and we're talking, and these guys that were in there, we were talking about how, can you believe this is happening? Like, we're under attack. 1 beer in, they go, you from Chicago? I'm like, no. They're like, where are you from? I go, Quincy, Illinois. They go, oh, do you know Bruce Douglas?
Yep.
That's the power of Blue Devil basketball.
So before I moved back to Quincy, I was working at the newspaper in Columbia, Missouri. And I was the Mizzou basketball beat writer. So one of the years I was covering Mizzou, I go to the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City. So they have the hotel where the media stay. They always have a hospitality suite. So you go and cover the games, you're working, you go back to the hotel, and all the reporters from throughout the conference end up in the hospitality suite at the end of the night. You're drinking beer, eating snacks, BSing and everything. And I'm talking with one of the guys from the San Antonio News Express. And we got talking about, where'd you grow up? That kind of conversation. I said, well, I'm originally from Quincy, Illinois. And he goes, Bruce Douglas and Michael Payne.
Unbelievable.
I said, yep.
It's so crazy.
And so then he's like, did you see them play? I was like, yeah, and I've got their autograph. And
I think,
because they were, so I have a program from senior night in 1981. So my sister graduated with that class. So she was friends with Michael Payne. And so she asked Michael to take a game program from that night down to the locker room. And every member of the 1981 state championship team signed it. Coach Leggett, Coach Hellenthal signed it. Mark Boster was the Blue Devil. He signed it. And so like some of them would sign their name and put their number. He signed it and drew a little pitchfork.
really?
Yeah.
The Bosters are a great family. So can we shift a little bit to March Madness for a second?
Sure.
Because this is, like I was saying earlier, it's kind of a big deal in my house. Like I told you, we go over to friends' houses. We do the Calcutta auctions. Are you familiar with a Calcutta?
Oh, yeah.
So it's an auction where you can buy teams. Is this legal? Can I even talk about this? How you do? Is this legal to do this? No, I mean we don't buy teams. Never mind. We pull names out of a hat. We've got no idea what's going on. No, so we do the Calcutta, the auction. We're not doing it through DraftKings. We're not doing it through.
It's you and your buddies. You're fine.
Okay. Jeez, I'm gonna get the feds calling Muddy River. I'm arrested.
I'm turning you in.
I deserve it. So you do all that stuff, and then what happens is I pick all of my teams. We do the Calcutta auction.
Okay.
We do the snake. We do these things. I come home. with the brackets, all the filled out. I've got whatever teams I've got, but I come home with empty brackets. I hand one to each kid.
Okay.
I hand one to my wife, Rachel.
Okay.
My wife, Rachel, will generally request 2.
Okay.
Okay. I'll do 1 or 2. We do the brackets. And the kids, after the second round, they're crying because they picked.
Kids, they picked a team that lost.
Yeah, they're picking Wofford. And, in UC San Diego.
Because it sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you hear about people talking, they're picking their March Madness college basketball teams based on the mascot.
Right.
Or they're looking at the record.
Or the school colors. They like blue instead of orange, so they pick the team that's wearing blue.
Right. And
yeah, you hear all kinds of.
Bulldogs can kill chickens. Yeah. So I'm going with the Bulldogs. How do you fill out your March Madness bracket?
I do 2 brackets. I do so there were some ESPN radio hosts who did a bracket of integrity is what they called it. You fill out a bracket, and that's the bracket you stick with. And it's the one you legitimately think this team's going to beat this team. This is the team I'm going to pick to win it all. I try to do one of those.
Okay.
Where I sit down and look at it and go, okay, I've watched enough college basketball. I've seen this team. I know what they're capable of. Oh, this team's won 12 of its last 13, including the conference tournament. I think they're going to go on a run. I analyze it just like I would, And again, I watch enough college basketball during the year that I feel like I've got a pretty good grasp of who's good, who's playing well, who's not playing well, who's snuck in, who's a team that could get hot and make a run. It never really works out the way I want it to, but I feel like I can. Like I picked Florida to win it all. That was my pick in my bracket of integrity, so to speak.
A 1 seed.
There's only two caveats to my bracket of integrity that I follow. These are steadfast rules. I take Mizzou if it's in the tournament. I take Mizzou as far as I possibly can, and maybe even a step further. Because I want it's my alma mater. I want to see Mizzou win.
And were they a 6 seed
yes.
this year?
And they failed miserably.
Really bad.
Yeah, let's not talk about it.
Sorry, Tanner Freiberg.
The other rule I steadfastly follow is the school to the west of Missouri. I will not write that school's name on a bracket ever.
You won't?
No, I will not. I never have.
Goodness. Okay. So you are okay.
So those are the two rules I follow when it comes to my bracket of integrity. Again, the rest of it is I think this team's better than this team and is going to win, or this team's hotter than this team. Like I try to put some thought into each pick.
How far did you have Mizzou going?
I had them winning their first 2 games, which I thought was a stretch as it was, because I didn't know if they'd win their second round game. But I had them winning 2 games. That's what I legitimately thought. Now I'm going to pick from the heart bracket, which is I took number 16 seeded SIU Edwardsville to beat number 1 Houston because my buddy Ryan Hellenthal is an assistant coach at SIUE. Okay. Was that going to happen? No. But I picked that because that's one of those brackets I have fun with, and I'm like, I'm going to pick, hey, I watched this kid play in high school for whatever school he was at, and he tore the Blue Devils up. Okay, I'm going to pick his team. Or I had Mizzou winning it all on my pick from the heart bracket. Just because I do that one for fun, just for myself.
Do you send the pick from your heart bracket, do you send it somewhere?
No, it's just, you can see it online. It's online. I fill it out online, so if anybody wants to look at it, it's there.
Okay.
I'm not going back and going, oh, look, I made this pick. You didn't know that I made this pick. I got lucky, but I made it. No. My pick from the heart one is me having fun. I'm going to pick a team. Okay, maybe there's a team or a coach I can't stand. So I'm going to pick that team to lose. Or a coach that Tom Izzo is my favorite college basketball coach.
Michigan State.
So I will pick Michigan State as far as I can possibly take them every year.
He's your favorite?
He's my favorite.
Goodness.
So do I analyze the bracket on one hand? Yes. And try to be, hey, I think that team's good enough to win it all. Or that team's good enough to get to the Final Four. Yes. Then the other one, that's for me. That's for me to have fun. My brother, who passed away 5 years ago, we would sit and talk about the brackets. And it always he'd go, "You're not going to pick Kansas?" "No, I'm not going to ever." He goes, "No, but as a basketball fan, you're not going to pick them?" "No, I'm not." And it just baffled him that I would refuse to write that school's name down. And he'd be like, "Now," and then he would try to get all psychological with me, and he'd be like, "Now, from a sports writer's point of view, like, no, that's not part of this. I am never going to write that school's name down.
Never.
Never, ever, period."
Like when you hear somebody say rock chalk, do you want to throw up?
Chicken Hawk.
Ouch. All right.
Put it this way. When I cross the state line, when Michelle and I travel, and we have to cross Missouri into that state, I roll the window down on the interstate and spit on the ground.
You are serious about this?
Every true Missouri son should be.
Yeah, I've seen some of the chants between the Tigers and the Jayhawks. It gets very
Get some Mizzou people around and play Mr. Brightside by the Killers, and you'll get a feel for what it's like.
Yeah, what is the famous college football stadium that when they play Mr. Brightside, it's a huge thing.
I don't know which.
I think it's a Big Ten school, isn't it?
I think it is.
Is it like Penn State or something?
Maybe.
Like
I don't know for sure.
so Mizzou does the Mr. Brightside thing?
Yeah. Get on YouTube or Google it sometime,
They're going crazy.
and you'll understand.
Yeah, I've heard. So with that,
I won't repeat it on the podcast, what gets screamed very loud
Okay.
in that arena. But
This is why I really love college sports.
it's something derogatory towards that team to the west of Missouri. You know all the trees in Missouri lean to the west.
Do they?
Yeah,
Okay. And what's the punchline?
because Kansas sucks.
Okay. If our KU friends, which you don't have any KU friends, you don't have any friends who are KU. Wait a second, you probably
do.
don't have any.
I actually, there are, yes, I do.
Do you
have
tie their shoelaces together when they're
No,
looking?
I just ignore them. For when they talk sports, I ignore them because they went to KU. They don't know anything.
Are they kind of dead to you?
No.
Okay. Because I want to see how far you want to take this. So I do consider you an authority on this.
Okay, so our player of the year for boys basketball, Preston Brewer from Canton, who's going to go play at Quincy University. We're in the middle of recording Schuck on a Truck, and I'm talking to him about, because they took second place at the state tournament. And I asked him what it was like to play at Mizzou Arena. You know, you go play AAU ball and you play in some big college gyms and stuff, but you're playing for a state championship in Mizzou Arena. And he goes, "Oh yeah, it was fantastic." He goes, "That's where my favorite college team played." And he goes, "The Kansas Jayhawks." And I'm like, "Okay, interview's over." No, we didn't end it there. I joked with him about that.
Yeah, well,
But it's like, dude, no. We don't joke about that. I mean, think about this. Norm Stewart, who, bless his heart, is one of my favorite people on earth, would not spend a dime in that state.
wow.
Yeah.
Which one was the slave state? Kansas or Missouri?
Missouri.
Okay, well, there's double-edged sword here. Goodness, you're probably not too happy
But
about
the great William Quantrill and his band of Missouri Tigers rode into Lawrence, Kansas, and burned it to the ground.
My goodness, you sports guys, don't mess with you guys.
So,
so
there's our March Madness tangent.
So no, that's a good one. It's worth going into. So I've got a question, kind of a local question.
Okay.
Actually, before we get into the local question, can we talk about the importance of youth sports? In terms, when I say youth sports, I'm talking like Quincy Park District versus club teams. Now, I did kind of get into this one time with Ken Scherf, and he had strong opinions about these kinds of things. And I did kind of talk to you a couple days ago about this, and which really begs the question for a guy like you. Do you feel some partiality towards rec sports or maybe like CYO towards club
Okay,
sports?
as a guy who grew up playing Park District baseball and and CYO sports and all that stuff, I think it's highly important and highly imperative that those things continue, especially for the younger kids. Younger kids need that. They need to go play. They don't need to spend a weekend in a hotel. They need to go play. They need to play with their buddies. They need to play with their friends. They need to play in an environment that just lets them have fun and enjoy the game. You have to remind them it's not about winning. And I see a lot of things get posted on social media. Well, my 6-year-old went 3-3 in the wrestling tournament this weekend and took third. Who cares? Did he have fun? Or did he cry at the end because he lost because you made it so important? If you're making it your 6-year-old cry because he lost on the wrestling mat because you made it so important that he wins, he's not going to wrestle in high school. He's going to be burned out by then. He's going to be tired of it.
Yeah.
You know, let him have fun. There comes a point in time, when the traveling sports take a more heightened importance. Is that at the 10U level? No.
When should club sports start? 12U?
14.
8th grade?
Yeah. What?
Like that's
But
like,
let them be kids. Like to me, that's the thing. Okay, do this, and I haven't done it, but if you look at it, how many kids around here are D1 athletes?
Ooh. You mean from potential?
Well, okay. Abby Schreck's playing at Mizzou.
You're saying in reality currently.
In reality.
Who's a D1?
In reality. All these kids who played all these travel sports, and we got to get them in front of coaches. We got to get them doing this. How many of them are playing at the highest level?
Okay, let's talk. Let's figure it out. Let's figure it out.
So I mean,
how many? Are there half a dozen? Are there 3? Okay, Abby Schreck. She plays for. Speaking of Mizzou, she's killing it at Mizzou, right?
Sort of. I mean, she's been outstanding. She hasn't gotten very many minutes this past year, but that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day.
Okay, but she's a D1 athlete. She's awesome.
Yes.
She's very good.
Yes.
What other?
I mean, Bradley Longcore's going to Santa Clara. It's not there yet. Okay. Danny Stevens went to Mizzou, hasn't played a minute. He's been injured and everything. He's now in the transfer portal. We'll see where he ends up. Will he end up at another D1? I don't know. Jackson Stratton's playing football at Butler, but Butler's a non-scholarship D1.
Is Seth Anderson still playing soccer, or is he long gone?
Seth is graduated. Tanner's still at SLU. Okay. There you go. I'm sure I'm probably missing somebody.
So half a dozen.
Jeremiah Talton, yeah.
Talton?
Who's at Lindenwood.
Yeah.
But hasn't, I mean, he was hurt this year, averaged 7 points a game last year. You know, again, but think about it. Think about all these kids that are spending, and the parents are spending thousands of dollars to travel every weekend and get them in front of college coaches and stuff. And how many of them are actually, now, I don't know the number. Probably the more accurate thing would be to know how many of them got college scholarships and how many of them used the college scholarship. Those would be the real interesting numbers in my mind. Because if you're going, oh, we're gonna put them in traveling sports at 8U to get them a college scholarship. Well, wait a minute. He's a kid. Let him. I'm not saying there's no value in. There is value to travel teams. There is value to club teams. But when you invest everything you have into it from so little on, you lose the love of the game.
So, no doubt. Can I offer a perspective? By the way, I do not think you are wrong. There's nothing that you said.
And there's people out there who will be totally against what I had to say, and that's fine. It's my opinion. That's what it is. And I dealt with it with my nephews, with traveling soccer. I see it now going on with the next generation when it comes to wrestling, club wrestling. Mm-hmm. I talk to athletes all the time.
What about this? What if the perspective is we're not trying to make these kids D1 athletes. Now there's going to be some psycho parents that see their kid in 2nd grade, and these parents are seeing dollar signs and NIL and all of this madness that they should not even be thinking about, putting undue and unnecessary hardships on their own offspring.
Right.
I would like to offer a perspective, even though I don't quarrel with anything that you just said. So it's not even a debate because I'm on your side. I would offer that to try to make QHS and Q&D try to get as many state qualifying teams, state qualifying athletes, some state championships. I would move it down a notch to get these kids ready for high school sports to be the best that they can. Forget about college, because college is kind of like a creme de la creme. Once the kid's in high school, the club sports.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to cut you off right there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Quincy High School has not been to the state tournament in boys basketball. I'm going to use boys basketball as an example. Okay. Since 1998. Longest drought in school history. Okay? All those teams that went to the state tournaments in the 60s, 70s, 80s, they didn't have club sports. And they did just fine in high school.
Are you saying that club sports is maybe hindering these?
In some ways, yes. Because there's kids who aren't playing high school sports. See, I think the death of high school sports is imminent.
Whoa.
I think we will see the death of high school sports. I can't say 5 years, 10 years.
Death?
But because everybody's going, let's go play club. And the club coaches are, I want you. I ran into it when I coached 13U baseball. I had kids who would be like, I'm not going to be at the game tonight. Well, why not? Well, our soccer team has practice. Well, wait a minute, you're giving up a game for a practice. Why? Well, we're putting in a new defense, and we got to be ready for the club tournament this weekend.
What?
Yeah, I had that happen.
In Quincy?
In Quincy.
Goodness. Okay.
So again, there. The overlapping of the seasons makes it difficult because, and I know it does for the high school coaches who want their teams to play, their kids to play. I want you working out with the basketball team this summer. And the kid's like, well, I'm going to go play club soccer. Or I want you to play baseball this summer. Well, wait a minute. I need to go to camp with my football team. You know, so the overlapping causes some of that stuff at the high school level. But again, I think kids are drawn. The kids see it as, I get to go stay in a hotel this weekend. We get to travel. We get to eat. Hey, I might get Chick-fil-A this weekend, or something like that. Something whatever.
That might be something I would say.
Yeah. So
about the Chick-fil-A.
But it's like, okay. But how early is too early to do that? Like, I think the 8U, when you see 8U travel team.
It sounds crazy.
It's crazy.
It sounds crazy.
It's crazy, and that's again.
So, do you know what's happening? So, I'm gonna take a page out of your playbook here and kind of dig into something that is very important to me, but it also seems to be very important to Quincy. So, there's this idea where, so QHS and QND soccer. So it hurts me to say this, but I think maybe generally the city, collectively, the two orgs together have maybe seen a general decline. And I'm saying this knowing that all of those coaches, I'm friends with all of these coaches. Yeah. Okay, so I'm not saying anything against them. I love them. Okay, but I think, for example, to your point, I think, and you can check me, but to your point, I see a lot of soccer players going towards club football. So club football is balling out of control. Club basketball, club baseball, and
I would say club volleyball is maybe the biggest one.
Club volleyball. So by the way, that really good club volleyball outfit, is it like Club 4 or something?
Club 4, yeah.
Club 4, outstanding organization. I know a lot of kids in that program.
But again, I think there's an almost, and I'm not saying they do this,
right? But
I know there are certain entities, and it's every sport. But it's like, okay, you're going to play volleyball for us. You're going to play football. You're going to play basketball for us. You're going to play soccer for us. And you're not going to do anything else. Because we want your attention. We want you at practice. We want you going to camps. We want you going to games year round. That's where I think it gets out of control.
Yes.
And I think if you go,
yes.
It's hard to compare 35 years ago to now. Life's so totally different. But if you look at the number of three-sport athletes, I'd be curious how many there were back then, how many there are now.
Do you think that it is a good thing for an athlete to be good at one sport, in order to be really good at one sport, do you think they should focus all of their attention on that sport, or do you think they should play multiple sports as
Multiple
children?
sports. Multiple sports.
And do you think those multiple sports that they're playing is interweaving and helping them be ultimately super good or the best they can be at the sport they love the most?
Because I think you got to learn. I think it's beyond just the physical skills. You could spend all your day shooting baskets, and you could become the best shooter out there. But are you learning teamwork? Are you learning adversity? Are you learning some of the things you may not experience in that sport? But if you go play baseball and you struggle, and you go, okay, I got to really dig in and work at it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, I may be wrong in all that, but I think the multitude of sports you can play. I mean, again, I don't look very athletic. Obviously, I'm overweight and everything. But growing up, I played every sport I possibly could.
What was your favorite sport as a kid?
Baseball.
When did you start?
I started playing t-ball when I was 5.
So take me through this process. I am going to come back and talk to you about
club
sports and how
I
it
was going to
affects-
bring up Adam Steinkamp, Quincy Notre Dame wrestling coach.
Yes.
He always brings up us playing basketball against each other in the CYO. Like when I go out to go do wrestling, he'll bring up, hey, you could really shoot it back then. And, we'll joke about things.
Well, I want to talk to you about club wrestling, club soccer, I want to talk to you about that because we're talking about our town.
Yeah.
Okay. And a lot of time we can go into professional sports and talk about NFL, NBA, MLB. We can talk about all of these things, but I really want to kind of keep it more local because I've got you in front of me. This is Schuck on a pod. So I want to kind of exploit that opportunity. But real quick, when you were growing up, you played baseball. What organization did you play t-ball for?
Park District.
Okay. Did you play CYO or no?
Yeah, because I went to St. Mary's grade school.
You went to St. Mary's, so you played CYO.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then we had the Maranatha League. Played baseball at Maranatha Park.
and was that like, no, not Pony League. What was that?
Pony League was, as you got to 13, 14, it was Pony League.
And Pony League, and this is, who put on the Pony League? Was that the Y? I can't remember.
I don't remember.
So, but the Maranatha League, I remember hearing about that because I moved to Quincy in .89 when I was in 6th grade.
Okay.
So I played baseball, played for Sports Locker.
Okay.
We were awesome. I don't think we ever lost. We were amazing. Jamie Blazing, Travis Maynard, Matt Drew.
One of my Park District or youth league coaches actually married Michelle and I.
Oh.
He was a retired judge when we got married, but I went back and asked him if he would do the ceremony.
Wow.
So
That's neat.
my baseball coach growing up married us.
Yeah, see, relationships.
And again, that's what it comes back to.
Sports is a metaphor for life.
Yeah.
It is a part of life. It is life.
Yes.
It is. This is what I was, my wife, very early on, we were dating early in our marriage, she quickly saw, I would say sports is life, and she, I don't want to say she poo-pooed it, but it is such a big deal. It's like kind of like when we're watching March Madness right now with the kids. And obviously my son wants Houston to win everything.
Okay.
And I don't want to like break his bubble and tell him why, let me tell you all the reasons why I don't want Houston and Duke. But we're watching it and we're explaining how that kid's really hurt. That kid just got hit in the eye. He tripped, he fell straight on his back. Now what's he gonna do, Valentino? Is he gonna give up and go cry in the locker room? Let's watch what he does. And so he got taken off the floor.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh boy, where is he? Is he, we would pause it and see if we can find the player on the bench. Okay, so he's not in the locker room. Let's zoom in. He's not crying. What's he doing? Oh, he's watching the game. Oh, do you think he'll come back in? Valentino's like, I don't know. Well then, 6 minutes later, he comes back on the floor, scores, awesome layup, gets fouled and won, and makes the free throw. I go, there you go, son.
Yeah.
Like, look out. You want to go back and see how hard he fell? Sports is life.
Yep. No doubt.
But so good job. So baseball. Can we talk? Can I ask you kind of a really serious?
Real quick on that.
Please, yeah.
Like, yes, I played baseball, at the CYO, you played flag football with your school. You
Yeah.
played basketball. You played baseball. I played Y tackle football. I took tennis lessons through the Park District and played tennis down at South Park. The only thing I didn't do growing up was golf. I never picked up a golf club till I was in college.
Okay.
Bowled at the Harrison Lanes,
Harrison
which is
Lanes.
no longer there, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if it was sports related, we were trying it. We had a tether ball in the backyard. We had badminton we would set up in the backyard. We had, I bet if you go to the house I grew up in, there are still probably dirt spots in the backyard, which were where the bases were when we played wiffle ball.
How old were you when you stopped playing catch? Just the game of catch. Just throwing a ball with your old mitt, just throwing a baseball back and forth with a friend. How old were you when you just stopped?
I haven't stopped.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it?
If I could get, again, I don't do it every day, like nothing like that.
Who can?
But if somebody said, "Hey, you got time today? You want to go throw the ball?" I would jump at the chance.
Wow. I'm the exact same way.
I still have an old catcher's mitt I used to do it too.
How old is it?
Oh Lord,
Is it just the most
probably I'm
amazing thing?
51, so it's probably 35, at least 35 years old.
Is that your what do you
It's old and tattered, but
do you still have your mitt from high school?
yeah,
That's what you were a catcher?
yeah.
Oh, God bless. The catcher's mitt that you have now, is that the mitt you used?
Yeah, I haven't bought a new because again I got cut.
I love this.
So sophomore year I got cut.
Okay.
And so I never played varsity baseball, but I still played. I played in a college league at Mizzou. We ended up getting guys together to go out to the American Legion Field in Columbia, and we put together. They did a high school, they did a college age guys leagues for guys, So we had a team together. So I caught in it.
Can I tell you what happened to me? I was playing for Sports Locker and CYO, playing two teams, and Ed Blazing was the coach.
Okay.
And Ed Blazing was a really good
Yes.
baseball coach. He was really good. Obviously, you saw Jamie Blazing. So that was Ed Blazing was my coach. And I somehow worked my way all the way up to the top of the lineup.
Okay.
I never got past Matt Drew, who always batted first because he's always going to get on base because he's that kind of an athlete.
Yeah.
He can just will it. He's going to smash one. But I eventually batted second or third, in the lineup. And I went to the Park District and went into the batting cages. In 8th grade, I got beamed by a ball, like really hard. Was not wearing a helmet.
Okay.
Bad on me. I put the helmet on, and I got hit again. Do you know that I did not play high school baseball? I didn't even try out for the freshman team.
Because of that?
Because of that. You got infinitely farther than I did because I was a sissy and couldn't make the mental jump to say, Frank, it's okay. The Park District batting cage hates you. It's going to be okay. I couldn't do it.
I was just slow. My favorite coaches will tell you that too. They still tell me that.
But if you're a catcher,
Didn't matter. I was still slow. I was real slow.
okay.
Didn't matter.
Okay, well. But isn't it beautiful though?
I got one stolen base, and of course everybody went bat crazy.
Oh, I bet they went. They went nuts.
Yeah.
But isn't it wonderful that you can reminisce and talk about baseball as a child, and it's still with you?
I can sit there and tell you that we lost the championship, the Park District championship, on a play at the plate where I dropped the ball.
Okay. Well,
I remember it vividly. I remember hitting the double to get us to drive in a run the inning before, and next inning there was a play at the plate, and I dropped the ball.
is that your like a career ending?
No, but just I remember it vividly. But there are things I remember. But it does not just that. I remember Roy Hincamper was the best player in the YMCA Tackle Football League. His dad was the coach of the Redskins, and Roy was the running back for the Redskins. And Roy and I are friends to this day. I love him. If he was sitting right here, I would tell him, "I love you, Roy." When he comes to town, we try to get together and have lunch or breakfast or something. But I remember playing Y tackle football, and again, the Redskins just kept feeding him the ball because he was the best player in the league. And he was just running. And I remember hitting him hard and tackling him, but it was on one of those rainy Saturdays, and we both went sliding into the mud at the YMCA field.
Who'd you play for?
I was with the Bears.
Okay.
So, but yeah, there's just I can go back to making shots playing basketball at the CYO.
What do you think?
Again, that's what sports was. I remember playing tennis down at South Park. Like there's certain memories of that, of not only just playing actual tennis, but then playing pretending you're playing baseball with the tennis racket and ball and hitting it over the fence and going down there all the time and just being goofy. And
What do you think?
which I think that's what kids need. Like, to me, that's the thing. I see so much of this. And again, life has changed. How many stay-at-home moms are there these days? Mm-hmm. So when a kid comes home from school, is he going home to mom, or is he going to the babysitter, or is he going somewhere where he doesn't have the flexibility to jump on his bike and go, hey, I'm going to go hang out. We had a basket on the back of our garage. And if you drive down the alley in the house I grew up in, the bracket for that basket is still on the back of that garage. And I would sit out there under the streetlight and shoot baskets till they made me come in.
So do you think that parents are letting their kids do that?
See, I don't know. And when I see it, I was driving on Jackson, left Notre Dame one night, went up to 12th Street, and kept going east on Jackson.
Okay.
And there was a house on the right-hand side, so on the south side of the street. Garage door was up, lights coming out of the garage, very bright. And there was two boys with a portable basket in their driveway shooting hoops. And it's like, that's awesome. Was out on a county road north of Quincy. And I'm snaking along and come up to an area where there's just some houses, not right on top of each other. But as I'm pulling through, there's two kids in the front yard playing catch. And it's like, there you go. Like, to me, going out in the back, my dad would go out and grill on a say a Sunday night or something. And I'd be out there running around in the backyard, and he'd be throwing the baseball to me or throwing the football with me. Or the neighbor kids would come over. I mean, again, we played wiffle ball in the street darn near every night. We did that even in high school.
Did you guys play? So when it wasn't getting dark,
we went over to the
4:30?
junior high athletic field and played.
Ooh, the old A field.
Yeah.
That gorgeous limestone wall.
And again,
right there.
I'm not saying kids aren't doing that, because I'll drive by Johnson Park and you'll see kids over there playing basketball and stuff. So I hope they're doing it everywhere like we did. I hope those neighborhood games these kids are creating those memories the way we did.
They're not.
I don't think they are, because I don't see it happening as much.
Okay. It would be incorrect to use absolutism and say those kids are not playing sports.
Right.
That's wrong. They are. Some of them are. I'm going to go off on a limb and say before COVID, it was down by 50% since we were kids. And since COVID happened, because there was a rewiring that happened, like a global rewiring,
Yeah.
in my opinion, I think it's gone down by 80% from the time that you and I were kids. So I grew up in the 80s, and we were literally like the latchkey kid thing, where we were playing sports as much as possible. I mean, were we screwing around and making mud pies? Sure.
Oh, yeah.
But then we graduated to football, soccer, baseball,
Well,
anything, like so many basketball pickup games, so many kickball games. Like kids, we had ringleaders with no cell phones that we
Right.
would meet. And we would tell our parents, yeah, I'm meeting, we're going to Bradmore Drive. We're going to ride our bikes there. It was like a 25-minute bike ride to get there. I don't see kids riding bikes that much. I don't see parents letting kids out of their sight. It's a really weird thing. And I'm not saying that parents are 100% not doing this.
Right.
But I'm going to hypothesize to you that I do not think it's happening anywhere near the scale of when you and I were kids.
Well, and I think part of it is life's just different for parents, for kids. Life's different, so you can't expect it to be the same. But I think there's also a trust factor that has been lost. Like, I grew up at 10th and Monroe.
Okay.
So my best friend Pat Berger grew up at 14th and Monroe. Okay, we played wiffle ball on 14th Street outside his house all the time. Okay, across Monroe Street, there was the Duncans lived. Well, back down behind their house was a full court basketball court. It wasn't like high school regulation size, but they had nets and rims at both ends, and you'd ride your bike down the alley to get to it.
Okay.
But anybody could go play. They didn't care. So we'd go down there and play basketball all the time. My front yard, so the block I lived on, there was a church in the middle of the block, a Mormon church. So there were 3 houses between the corner and the church, all set off from the street. Well, that gave us 3 front yards to turn into a field.
I love it.
And there was a rose bush. The Pottses lived on the corner, and they had a rose bush on the corner. Well, what's that make? Perfect. There's the end zone. So if you got to the rose bush, you were in the end zone. You're like, we would go and we'd kick the soccer ball off the back brick wall of the church building in the alley. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it helped to have kids your own age growing up in the neighborhood. So you could go do that stuff. But, we'd ride our bikes. We'd ride our bikes down to South Park, play in the creek.
We've got a few more minutes left before we both got to take off because we both have so many things going on after this. But I do have to ask you.
Yeah, because we could sit here and talk for a whole long time.
Well, remember how I told you about the outline that I write?
Mm-hmm.
We have barely touched it. But no, listen, Schuck on a Pod is an hour-long podcast. Okay, so I just want to let you know, so we're buttoned up close. But I've got something that I want to ask you.
Sure.
Do you think it is worthwhile for somebody in Quincy either, and I know, and I don't want the question to just be yes, absolutely automatically. Do you think that Quincy needs some type of like indoor facility, either for soccer or no, doesn't need it. No indoor. Okay.
I think everybody gets caught up that we need an indoor soccer facility.
Okay.
Soccer's got to grow. We need an indoor soccer facility. We need an indoor volleyball facility.
Soccer's hurting. Soccer's hurting bad.
Okay. So, again, though, do we need an indoor facility to save it? Or are we doing that just to save soccer? Are you doing it? Is it an indoor facility to facilitate a club sport? Is it an indoor facility to do this or that? Or is it just a place for kids to go play?
How about this? What about a turf field? What about a high school size, collegiate size turfed field?
Get dirty.
No.
Go play.
Okay.
Go get your buddies. Go grab a football on a Saturday morning when it's muddy and wet outside and see who slides the furthest trying to make a diving catch.
Okay.
See who gets the muddiest. like to me, I sit there and think about that. The athletic field over at QU, they're off 20th Street. We'd go and park and play football. And we were idiots, and we were in high school and college.
Can we go up there now and play?
Yeah, and field's
It's
open
for anybody?
I assume so.
Okay, you're gonna get the QU. The AD is gonna call you. And
Well, that's fine. He's got my number.
Watch it. Yeah, I'm sure he does.
But we would go and play, and now we were idiots, and we would play tackle with no gear or anything. We would just go out and play. But to me, that's everybody's so concerned about. And again, I'm sure I'm in the minority here when it comes to this. Probably very small minority.
That's fair.
But everybody gets so wrapped up. We need an indoor facility. We got to have leagues. We got to have this and that. My best memories are just going and playing with my friends.
No, I like your retro, throwback, traditional method.
And my buddies will tell you this. I am a traditionalist when it comes to sports. I stick to that. The Blue Devils should never wear black uniforms.
What about gray for gray's sake?
No. Blue and white's the school colors.
Do you know what gray for gray's sake is?
No.
Have you ever seen like Oregon? Like Nike will just throw a bunch of money at Oregon,
Yeah.
and it'll be gray, 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 gray. But because Oregon is what? Green and gold or whatever,
Yeah.
green and yellow, right? The Ducks.
Again, I'm a traditionalist.
But they're
school colors.
Why are they wearing gray all the way down?
Because Nike paid for it.
Gray for gray's sake. Ridiculous. but whatever, because Nike's got all the money. Hey, what do you want to talk about before we're done here?
You told me that you were asking all the questions today. So
listen.
So I just came prepared to answer. I told you anything was nothing off limits.
Yeah, I didn't even ask you anything like hardcore, hard-edged, or anything. But I'm learning about you.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to do this before the pod in the green room and learn everything about you. And then we get to the pod and that's like, okay, I know
what I
everything
can
about
tell you
Schuck.
is this: I feel like I grew up in the best neighborhood possible because there were so many kids my age around there. We rode bikes, we hit fireflies with wiffle bats, We tried to catch bats out of the belfry from the church nearby. Put a tennis ball in a sock, tie it real tight, throw it up there, and the bat would attack it. And if it caught it, its claws would get stuck in the tennis ball, and it would drop.
You had a good childhood.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, I remember throwing paper airplanes out of the bedroom window, and my older brother teaching me to light them on fire before you threw them, and so they would go flying down onto Monroe Street on fire.
Amazing.
You started talking about sports, and those are so much of my memories of growing up. It's playing ball with my buddies. It was riding our bikes over to Johnson Park. It was, seeing how far you could hit the ball. Could you hit one? So back then, the home plate was at the corner of 20th and I guess it'll be 20th and Van Buren. So could you hit one hard enough that it went over the fence and went onto Harrison Street? Those type of things. Those are the things.
Can you hit a car?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, there's a car. Oh, hit the yellow one.
And again,
10 points.
I just think of all the stuff we did just playing sports, but it wasn't organized. It wasn't, okay, this weekend, you got to go, you're going to this tournament. It was, hey, Saturday morning, get up, watch cartoons, and then somebody called and your dad answered the phone that hung on the wall in the kitchen, and then you went out there and answered it, and then, Mom, can I go? Yeah, you got to be back by this time, and okay, I'll be there. And then you'd meet up and ride your bike somewhere, and you made sure you had your ball glove on your handlebars because you might play catch or you might find a game to go play.
Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen.
You don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
You make sure you got some quarters in your pocket so you could stop at Modern Dairy at 20th and Jefferson and buy some gum and some packs of baseball cards.
And you don't want to get into a bike crash. Remember that big hill?
Yeah.
The big hill that you would come down?
Yeah.
That real steep hill that comes straight down. And you would, did you ever take banana peanut butter sandwiches and duct tape them to your bike because you never know when you don't know if you're going to eat next?
Or how many baseball cards you ruined because you used a clothespin and put them on your bike so it sounded like a motorcycle?
Absolutely. And that's like a 60s, 70s thing, but you did that?
Oh, yeah.
Man, outstanding. Hey, so when are we going to do a Schuck on a pod again?
Anytime.
How about every 6 months?
I think we should do it more often. This was fun.
Okay, good. Hey, you're great.
Thank you
so much. And
Anytime.
I'll try to get you one of these.
Oh, I'm going to get one of those.
Hey, thanks, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.